We got to jump to this one from the New York Times. Israel planted explosives in pagers sold to Hezbollah, officials say. I am so far beyond, this is so far beyond belief. The first thing I want to say is when I was live this morning, when the first reports came in, someone super chatted my morning show saying Israel just hacked and detonated pagers of thousands of Hezbollah soldiers. And I was like, no way, dude. That's a movie plot. I immediately Googled it. Jerusalem Post, Reuters, Wall Street Journal. And I went, holy crap. Now, at the time, we did not know if it was Israel. They'd remained silent, but the speculation was. The New York Times has a headline now that officials say Israel did in fact do this. They say small amounts of explosive were implanted in beepers that Hezbollah had ordered from a Taiwanese company, according to American and other officials briefed on the operation. I can only just say, holy crap, the videos are insane. This is, let me just stress, thousands. What are they saying? It's around 2,000 now, or what's the number?
I think it was 2,700, and at least 8 people were killed.
They went off, and there's photos.
And many wounded, right?
Many wounded. There's a photo of a guy who was riding his motorcycle with the pager on his hip. It blew up, knocking him to the side, and he's got this smoldering gash on his side, and he's just slumped over. There's the one of the most prominent videos of a guy wearing a bag in a market with oranges or whatever. His bag explodes and he falls down. Think about what this means. How did Israel intercept this order before it was shipped to Hezbollah? Why was Hezbollah ordering pagers from Taiwan, a U.S. ally? This whole story is absolutely crazy.
What I think is crazy, and we were talking about this a little bit before the show, it's almost like Israel is trolling them because they specifically use pagers. Now, I can't say why they chose Taiwan, but they use pagers because it's lo-fi, because they know that Israel will hack their cell phones, and it's a way of trying to avoid detection. But obviously, Israel is clearly saying, you can't escape us. We are in control here. And I just don't, I don't think it's going to de-escalate from this.
Not sure. Trolling, I guess, to a degree, to me, it just looks like good psychological warfare, right? So the idea is to create panic in the enemy. You're never safe. Anywhere, under any circumstances, even your own pager, we can make kill you. Now, I have to tell you, from a strategic viewpoint, if I was, taking a bird's eye view to this, that's a really good play. Making a person's pager blow up their friend is a really, really good way to instill in the enemy, you are never safe from us.
It's an ultimate troll. Hezbollah attacked Israel the other day. I don't think anyone was killed, but blowing up somebody's pager is a crazy troll.
I want to say a few things because I think let's remove emotion from the matter and talk mathematically as it pertains to war. Mm-hmm. You are correct. This was a tremendously brilliant strategy on Israel's part for how to have effectively a mass, simultaneous, decentralized attack grid on Hezbollah soldiers. I am not a big fan of the tactic, however. The idea, I would say this, I'm not a big fan of collateral damage. And so I can respect the brilliance of the strategy, the operation. I get that. There's a guy in a marketplace with oranges. They're innocent people who are getting caught in this. Yep. And I'm not a fan of collateral damage, but I want to stress this too. I want to make sure people understand that there's no rules in war.
There's none.
It's a silly argument. We talk about war crimes. I always thought that was silly.
It's weird, yeah.
I understand the idea. It's like, we're going to, if we win and you did these things, you are going to regret it. And that I understand. But understand that our enemies, the enemies of Israel, whatever, I'm not saying they're the same enemies. I'm saying Israel's enemies, we have enemies. They don't care about what we think the rules are. And so the only thing I can say is I don't want to be involved in Israel's war and conflicts, Lebanon, Iran, or otherwise. I don't know that we have an exit because our establishment leaders have already entangled us in this for generations. Mm-hmm. In which case, man.
And the Israeli lobby is extremely powerful.
Agreed. And so the challenge for me is, I don't know enough about what has been going on, why they did this, how it impacted the strategy. Will it end the war? Will it escalate things? I don't know. So the only thing I can say on the surface is, while I obviously condemn war and violence, the strategy was of such an intelligent and extremely capable caliber. I am shocked and impressed by, I can't believe they pulled this off. I wish war wasn't happening, But I got to stress, like Israel, man, they are not to be trifled with.
Well, not only that, but I mean, my pushback would be kind of the same. I know we were discussing this earlier, but my pushback here is kind of the same, that I do legitimately think inside of warfare that the civilian population is the population which feeds the soldiers. It is the population which makes the bullets. It is the population which makes the bombs, et cetera, et cetera. I have never been of mind from a strategic standpoint that civilian population centers would be off the table inside of warfare.
Well, that was sort of Castro's idea, is that his revolution could not succeed without the help of the civilian population. That was like a big.
Well, that's just all warfare.
Right, sure, but that was sort of his theory, like that he would never be taken down so long as he had the support
of the people. Right. But the idea here inside of warfare is everything.
Well, that was warfare too, yeah.
Just like everything that is supporting your army and your military force is given to you from the civilian population, all of it. So when
that's the argument for the attack on Dresden.
Yeah, well, I mean,
what was it, Easter Sunday?
Yeah. Or the attack for Nagasaki or Hiroshima or any of these things.
Sure.
But the point is like, we did it, and we did it because these population meccas, if they're gone, you can't support the army. So I'm not sure that I would take the idea of like collateral damage or things like this. If you're in open warfare, legitimately, civilian targets are going to be on the table. They just legitimately are.
Yeah, I think that is something that the Western community is sort of tiptoeing around here. We hear reports about civilian casualties on both sides pretty repeatedly. And at the same time, no one is willing to say, like, okay, we must now stop this. And I think in some ways it's an acknowledgement.
Well, it's because both sides cry foul, too.
Right. And you also realize that, like, you can't hold either side accountable to stopping being this outside influence, not being directly involved in the conflict.
Well, the first thing the Israelis do, if there's civilian casualties, is they run out in front of the cameras and say, hey, look, okay, Hezbollah came in and look at all these civilians that they killed. Okay, that is the first thing that they're going to look to. That's off the table. So, but this is done the other way too. Oh, look at all the civilians that the Israelis killed. If you're Hezbollah, they both use the same tactic because in the public's mind, that is an off the table target. But in reality, from a strategic bird's eye view, of course, that's not off the table.
You ever see War of the Worlds?
Yeah.
The original and the remake. And I remember reading a very funny opinion piece, movie review. And it's like, how funny. The aliens come and attack Earth, and then they succumb to illness, they end up dying or whatever. And it said, the reality is that if any alien force had the capability to come to Earth, they would immediately target our oil fields, and the entire world would shut down within 2 or 3 days. End of story. Our energy sources are ripped from us, power plants shut down, and then the planet's over.
Right.
So when we're talking about war, what people need to understand is, for the most part, we are trying to be gentlemen. When you hear these stories and it's like, well, we only engage military targets, this is gentlemanly, but it's not real war.
No.
Real war is going to be like what we see in the Middle East with ISIS, when a suicide bomber runs into a daycare or something and just knows they're going to hit them where they're going to hit us, they're going to hit our allies where it hurts. Barack Obama, here we go. You ready for this one? Killed Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki, a 16-year-old American citizen, in a drone strike in Yemen. We are not at war with Yemen. The drone targeted a civilian restaurant. It killed more. My understanding is more than just Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki, who was a 16-year-old from, I believe he was born in Boulder, Colorado, lived in San Diego. The official response was they had been targeting an al-Qaeda leader and they had bad intel. It was an accident. I don't believe that I don't believe that for a second. Anwar al-Awlaki, his dad, was also killed in a drone strike, and this man was an American citizen. The argument that was made by the uniparty establishment was that Anwar was an enemy of this country, was a jihadi rallying people to fight against us, and therefore he was an enemy combatant. Mm-hmm. There's an argument there. I say that's a tough one. That's tough. There's an argument there. The Constitution still protects that someone who is an American citizen will get charged, will get a trial, and not just be blown up in war. If, however, someone is actively in a combat zone and they're attacking you, I don't think such a premise is reasonable. That being said, I don't believe for a second the killing of a son was an accident. I believe, in my opinion, purely my opinion, the Obama administration said, we're going to send a message to al-Qaeda. We're going to send a message to Iran, kill his kid. I believe that the Obama administration intentionally targeted a civilian restaurant in a country we're not at war with to kill the child of a jihadi, so that all of these people would know the United States is not above killing your children if you fight against us, sending terror to all of them. There's another famous story that we were listening to recently where Donald Trump sent some guy a picture of his house. Was it? Are you familiar with this one? Do you guys remember this? I don't know what it was, but so he I think it's the Taliban, and Trump's negotiating, and Trump says, send him a picture of his house. And the guy says, why do you send a picture of my house? And he's like, you'll have to figure that one out. But there's a point that we know where you are, we know who you are, and we have the power to get you. There's a lot of questions about the killing of Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki. Why did we bomb a country we're not at war with? Why were we targeting civilians? And how did we accidentally kill this guy? I think it's unreasonable to assume those are all accidents. I think it's actually simple. Barack Obama said, make sure they all know the price you will pay if you raise arms against the United States.
Sure. But let's look at this objectively too. This idea of rights as a United States citizen, these are really just constructions of the mind. There's no such thing as an actual right. It doesn't exist outside of some axiomatic kind of philosophical principled belief, right? I have the axiom that I have inalienable rights, and so therefore I have them.
Disagree.
Okay, and we can get into that in a second. But to finish my point, okay, based on this, we kind of suspend them all the time and then kind of pretend like we don't. We let cops be judge, jury, and executioner in many moments and kind of excuse them from it. If there's something which is going on that's in such a state of emergency, we'll suspend the constitutional rights of people in a moment's notice. We'll send the Japanese to internment camps. We will do all of those things because we've done it. We'll suspend your constitutional rights in a second if we think we need to, which, by the way, that would be my argument for how I know rights aren't real anyway. But we will, and we just kind of excuse it.
Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe, and we'll see you all there.